So you guys just wrote down the test review, hi AP Gov kids and others who are sick or gone. Test review is what we're working on in class for most of class today. However, I also have the answer key to that practice test that I passed out to you guys yesterday. I had to run into the office, but we got it. And then we're also going to go over questions if you guys have any from, I shouldn't be in here then, from anything extra that we have or that we have to do. Real quick reminder for everyone tomorrow, starting the test, period 1 at 7:45, period 6 at 1 o'clock. It's a pepperoni schedule. 15 minutes before lunch is over. I get kind of confused on pepperoni schedules. Anyway, lunch was starting early. Make sure you have your notes to turn in. Tomorrow, just so we get organized on the front board, I will say notes turn in to the back. Homework spirals turn into the front. Back on the TA table, the notes, front, homework spirals by the end of the day. If the spirals do get graded, they will be back here in these chairs in the very back, kind of piled up, and they'll say graded on top if you guys want to come in and pick them up later. Besides that, make sure you have your slope field even bonus done by tomorrow. If you have not yet gotten that plus, that check plus on your slope field packet, you can do those evens and turn them in tomorrow into the tray. Just leave them there. Your old stamp sheet should have been turned in yesterday. I forgot to announce it, so make sure they're turned in today to me by hand, the stamp sheets. And last but not least, your practice test we're turning in tomorrow as well. All right, so let's go ahead and check that practice test. Some of you might have gotten all of it done. Some of you might have gotten part of it done. This is in your shared folder underneath keys. Is number 1 the one that Katrina and Angela, you guys were wondering on? Oh, okay. So for number 1, half-life. That meant decay, so I used the decay equation. I plugged and shoved stuff. It was a little tricky because we're trying to figure out the time for y sub naught to decay to half of its amount. Anyway, long story short, number 1's final answer is B. No, C. I can't even read my multiple choice answers. Number 1 is C. Number 2, long story short, y equals cx. Number 3, B. Number 4, B. Number 5, E. Am I going too fast? 4, B, 5, E. You guys can also write these down if you want on the back of your paper. If you want to write down the back of your paper, if you haven't done it yet, it's blank. Just chilling. Let's do that. If you haven't done it yet, 1, C. The back of your paper is probably the easiest place. 1 is C. 2, y equals cx. 3 is B as in boy. 4 is B as in boy. 5 is E as in excellent. 6 is a bit of a beast. You might just want to write it down. Y equals 3 halves x squared minus 3 halves ln of parentheses 1 plus x squared. That can never be negative, so the absolute value bars are redundant. Yeah. Yeah. Haley, would you mind throwing the trash can in the door? Long-wise. 7 is D, and 8, you guys can see the final answer. Y equals the square root all around. Thanks, Haley. E to the x squared plus E to the x squared plus. Alright, kiddos. Are there any ones from those that did already work on this that you guys have questions on as to why the answer is what it is? I don't know what it means for this. Nothing? Okay, go ahead and open up your notes real fast then. Yesterday we did not get to because we were just a little bit behind period 6. So instead of going over questions, since you guys don't have any, don't worry, you'll get a little bit of a work day, but I want you guys to look at one FRQ with me. And remember, I said yesterday, why am I talking about FRQ? There's going to be one free response on the test tomorrow. There's going to be some multiple choice, maybe a long answer or two, and then there's going to be an FRQ. a bonus in there somewhere. I'm going to get these notes displayed. They should be coming up right about now. All right. One more free response, just to help us as a guide. If you guys want, you can always write down it's 2004, CalcAB 2004, question 6. I'm sure there are answer keys online. If we don't cover it in enough detail here, there's probably even videos of people explaining how to do it. Most of the old free response, somebody somewhere has solved and talked about it. But we're going to talk it through right now together, okay? Chapter 5, we have slope fields, 5.1. We have growth and decay, 5.2. And then we have differential equations, 5.3. And that's about it. You guys can really zero in on these topics. Just be careful. You have to know your integration formulas from last chapter and the chapter before. You have to be able to do your U sub in addition to all the new stuff. So, what are they asking for? Letter A. Sketch a slope field. How? How do we do that, guys? Yeah, plug in stuff, right? Go ahead and write your differential equation. dy over dx is equal to x squared times y minus 1. Corey.
You said the first one is usually worth the most, so this one is still worth the most.
Oh, the first problem isn't always worth the most. It just kind of depends. On this one, letter A is probably worth 2 points, maybe. Letter B is probably worth 1 to 2 points. Letter C is worth 5 to 6. If you just want to think about, where everything is laid out. So that means tomorrow, the free response I give you is worth 9 points, or it's split up into 9 parts. But I very well make each of those 9 points worth 2 each. So it might be worth 18 points total on your test. Now, there are multiple parts, so it's just kind of like, I don't know, a long answer where you have different parts with different points. Do not skip your FRQ tomorrow. Do not. All right, draw your graph with your 12 points. You have negative 1 to 1 up to 3. And you guys start finding your slope field. I'll come behind, but I'll find it a lot faster than most. Are working real quick. We haven't had a forever quiz on this chapter because there weren't really any forevers. However, I would still review your forevers a little bit before tomorrow just to make sure you have your integration rules all intact. Okay. You do not have to show me all 12 points in the table. I'm just reminding you guys of how you could do this if you need to fill out a table. When you guys plugged in 0, 0, what'd you get? Mm-hmm. How about when you plugged in 0, 1, or 0, 2, or 0, 3, or 0, 4? 2. Yeah, because back to 0, everybody's 0. Were there any other places you figured out where the slope should have been 0? 1, 1. Would also work because y is 1. So anytime y is 1, I'm going to have slopes of 0 also. We only have a few more slopes left. How about when x is 1 and y is 0? Yeah, that'd be 1 times negative 1, which would be negative 1. So we're going down 1 over 1. If you plug in negative 1, 0, if you notice, it'll actually be the exact same thing because negative 1 squared is positive 1 squared. If you plug in, let's see, 1, 2. You end up with 1 times 1 is positive 1, right? So up 1 over 1. If you plug in negative 1, it'll be the exact same thing. Because negative 1 squared is positive 1. And last but not least, if you plug in 1, 3. 1 times 3 minus 1, 1 times 2 is 2, a little bit steeper. If you plug in negative 1, it's going to be a little steeper also. It's going to be parallel. Does that look about right? Bless you, bless you. Any questions on how to plug in or how to draw a slope field? Little baby tangents. Ella.
So, like, if there's a sketch of slope field tomorrow, and we, like, don't really make one that steep, but, like, you can do our work in a table, so we get more up.
Well, you need to, well, let me show you what I mean. They're probably giving points in theirs. They probably gave points for having all the zeros in the right place, which you should be able to tell is really clear from being flat, right? They probably then gave points for the negative slopes, which you should be able to tell because it's going downhill. And then they might have even given 3 points on this one. It depends. But they might have given a point on the positive slopes. Long story short, if one pair of slopes is a positive one and one is a positive 2, which is what the case was here, there needs to be a marked difference. So it can't be the exact same. Does that make sense? But as long as it's a little steeper, yeah, I won't like measure and make sure it's right. As long as it's a little steeper, then that'll be okay. It just can't be obviously wrong, if that makes sense. All right, that was letter A. What's letter B asking? Yeah. Letter A says sketch the slope field at the points. Letter B gives us beginning information that says describe all points for which the slopes are positive. So they're asking when are the slopes greater than 0? Doesn't that mean positive, guys? And who are the slopes? The tangent lines as indicated by? Well, not above 0 though, because here's y equals, or x equals 0, y equals 0. These are flat, and these are flat. Yeah. Take who the slopes are. dy dx. Take who the slopes are, or how they're found. dy dx. Now, who is dy dx? Well, you guys can see them, right? Here's the dealio. If this is all you've got, and this is all we've got, they haven't given us anything else in part B, then they're just asking us to maybe look at when this is true and give them like an equation or something like that. So question, kiddos, whenever we have a multiplication greater than 0, there are 2 ways a multiplication can be greater than 0. Does anybody know the 2 ways that multiplication can end or result in a positive number? Either both positives, positive times a positive is a positive, or both negatives. A negative times a negative is a positive. So you can either say, okay, either x squared is positive and y minus 1 has to be positive, or x squared is negative and y minus 1 is negative. And then we solve and say, okay, is there anything else snazzier that we can say? Well, if x squared is positive, doesn't that mean that does anybody see anything that's always true or never true in the statement that we just wrote? Yeah. It's not possible for x squared to be negative. So if it's not possible, then do I even need to consider that second case? No. We can say, okay, this entire case is not possible, so forget that. X squared is always a positive number. So forget that. Now on the left-hand side, do you see anything that's never true or always true? What's always true? Yeah. So this is always true. Well, almost always true. What's the one time it can't be true? Isn't it every x except for 0 when squared is a positive number? So, x cannot be be 0, then you can be anything else. Plus or minus square root. All x squareds will be positive, so we don't have to worry about positives or negatives. As long as x isn't 0, we're good. But not just x doesn't equal 0. What else? Y has to be? And some of you might have kind of figured that out from the graph. Do you notice how the slope started becoming positive above y equals 1? And it's positive everywhere except when x is 0? So the slope field kind of backs that up, which helps. Yeah, no, nothing else. It doesn't say justify or explain. Just says describe. We have a nice little expression. We described it. We're done. All right, kiddos. Last one. Letter C. What's it say to do? Ooh, we should know what that is. What does this mean? Solve. Solve who? A differential. Right? Remember, and I'm going to be tough on this. In order to get any points from this section, which Corey and I were just talking, would be 5 to 6 out of the 9 points, which tomorrow would be 10 to 12 out of the 18 points. You have to separate legally. To get any points on letter C, you have to separate legally. All right, kiddos, how do we separate? Always multiply by dx first. Some of you might have other legal steps. It wasn't wrong. But just to be legal, always multiply by dx first. I've already seen, I don't know, I'd probably say at least 10 kids in the last 3 days that have done this step wrong. Bless you, bless you. You've got to multiply by dx first. And then say, okay, the y side is on the left. The x side is on the right. So who needs to get moved? And we can't just move the y, so we have to move everybody with us. Bless you, bless you. So we end up with 1 over y minus 1 times dy integral equals x squared dx. Is that good? Alright, let me give you guys a 30-second head start, then I will silently solve and we'll compare. Yes. Are we stopping with a C or are we still going on? Yep, we got ourselves a B. You guys got this. Solve this differential equation. 0. F of 0 equals 3. The numbers are messy. I haven't done that yet. Like growth and decay, I'm thinking I'll probably let you guys have your calculators for those. Just in case you need them. So bring your calculators just in case. Remember, you don't have to get decimals unless they get to me. Just in case you guys didn't get the clue earlier, the clue is f of 0 equals 3. Can you stop at c equals 2?
No.
No. Do we have to get y by itself according to the question? Sadly, yes. But when you solve for absolute value, remember you have to think of a positive solution and a negative solution. But my question to you is kind of like the plus or minus square root. Do I want this right-hand side to be positive or negative based on the clue that I'm given? Or do I want y to end up being a positive? So therefore, I'm going to ignore the negative solution and say, no, y has to be a positive number. So I don't want the negative portion or possible portion of an absolute value equation. I just want the positive portion. So kind of like the plus or minus square root where we just chose yesterday the negative square root because y was negative. And this one, since the y value at 0 is a positive 3, we needed to make sure everything stayed positive. You should have gotten a similar C when you simplified. Because you could have plugged in right here. Katrina's asking what you plugged in earlier. Is that it? Okay. If you plugged in, you should have ended up with, yeah, ln of 2 is C, but then when you go to multiply, no, you're actually okay though. So you would have had e to the 1/3 x cubed when you go to solve times e to the ln of 2. See? And what's e to the ln of 2?
But then you add 1 on the other side.
You get the same thing I got.
Oh,
Oh, sorry, the e to the ln's gone. My bad. Yeah.
Why don't you,
Oh, I could have. I just plugged in right where I was. Star is saying, what happens if you move the 1 first? The problem is if you move the 1 first, you would have had y minus 1 is equal to c e to the 1/3 x cubed. Add the 1. C can be positive or negative, so it should still work out. When we go to plug in our 0, 3.
Is that illegal?
No, that's not illegal. Because let's just make sure it works out. Plug in 0, 3. We get 3 is equal to c e to the 0 plus 1. Subtract the 1, c is equal to. And that matches up. That's just another way to get there. Because if you notice, that'll do the same thing, just be a little different route.
Yeah, and then if I did that, let's say that I did that with the test, it would be okay.
Yeah, it'll do it. That's what I normally did, just the absolute value. I just kind of went and found c right away. So that's okay. All right, cool kids, good job on this FRQ. That had you practice slope fields, check. Differential equations, check. The only thing this did not have you check or work with was section 5.2, growth and decay. All right, what are you studying for tomorrow? Everything meaning slope field packet. Well, let's say notes. Notes, slope field packet. Practice multiple choice in your chapter review. Sound good? All right. Let's work. You guys have 15 minutes, maybe a little bit more. If you have any questions, I'm here. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. And if there's something that everybody has a question on, let me know. Otherwise,